So right now in supply chain management, it's a pretty tricky time. This is May 2020. We've been hit by the coronavirus, and it's probably the greatest disruption that supply chains have ever seen. Maybe some people say it's a little bit of a rehearsal for climate change, but I think we're going to be seeing significant changes in our supply chains going forward. And what I'd like to talk about this week is what you should be focusing on, and that's coming right up. So what I'm going to be talking about this week is what to focus on in your supply chain over the next 6 to 9 months. And what I'm going to refer to here is a diagram that I recently posted on LinkedIn, and we'll put that up on the screen so you can see it. And I'll just talk you through that because I really just posted it up on LinkedIn to see what debate it might open, but I think here on the channel I probably should actually talk you through it and where I was coming from. So basically what we're looking at there is what's going to be happening in the supply chain in the next 6 to 9 months. Why I think it's really important is that as we're coming out of this pandemic, there's going to be a real rush for market share and trying to stabilize supply and really to try and get business back on some kind of normal track. And so the period at the moment, so this is in May 2020, businesses are really still trying to just grapple with the day-to-day, the demand issues, the supply issues, but the smart businesses are now starting to look forward and see what should we actually be doing over the next few months. And I've broken this down really over the next sort of 6 to 9 month period. And what I'll do actually next week is I'll talk through a little bit of a process of some of the specific things to focus on. But right now, we're talking about the concept. So if you look at this chart, you'll see that the end game is really where do you want to be in 6 to 9 months? And let me talk down through those. So best-in-class supply chains are generally about the top 20% in every industry. So the best performers in terms of service and cost are the top 20%, and they are recognized, it's an internationally recognized term, they are recognized as being best in class. So is that your target? Is that where you already are? Or is that where you want to be in the next 6 to 9 months? Maybe you're using this as an opportunity to expand your business and to get some more market share and to take a leadership position in the business, in the industry. The next 20%, I've called that kind of doing well. So, not everybody can be best in class. That's the top 20%. So by default, 80% aren't. But maybe, your business is heading to be doing really well, and that's great. The next 30%, so we've got 20, the next 30%, I reckon are just going to be coping. They're going to be treading water. They're going to be maintaining their position, trying to contain costs, trying to maintain service levels, but really not making much headway. So we're starting to get into an area now where it's not an attractive place to be. Even worse, I reckon the next 20% are going to start falling behind. So already through this pandemic, we have seen a lot of businesses fall by the wayside. We have seen businesses have to change their supply chain radically in terms of different channels to market, different ranging, different service offers. Some will probably get through the pandemic okay, but then get left behind as stronger businesses really start to take over post-pandemic. So I reckon we're going to see 20% or so slowly slipping in terms of performance in cost and service. Right down the bottom there, I reckon 10% may not even survive. Which is really sad because they may have, through enormous effort, actually got through the pandemic okay. Obviously, lots are not making it. But so what I'm talking about here is that there will be 10%, I think, that make it through the pandemic and then just fall in a heap because they will get totally left behind and just not be able to recover and be able to provide the sort of services at the sort of costs that the market is demanding, once we're finished. So what are the steps that I reckon you need to be taking over the next few months? That's the important thing. Where do you want to be? Are you going to be in the top 20%? The next 20%, are you going to be in that coping group? I would urge you to be not in the 20% that are falling behind or the 10% that are not going to survive. So what have you got to do to ensure that you're in some of those upper groups? The first things I'd start doing right now is probably benchmarking your performance and doing some gap analysis. So whether you're doing that with internal benchmarking between states in your business, between countries in your business, between divisions in your business, that's always a really good thing to do with a large business, so that you can compare cost and service performance across different parts of the business. And then when you find the ones that are really performing well, find out what are they doing differently? How can we transfer some of that process or that knowledge across other parts of the business? So that's really the easiest way to do benchmarking. External benchmarking is also really good because it allows you to take the blinkers off and to look at what other businesses in your industry are doing, what good businesses are doing, what bad looks like. So it's always difficult to compare yourself at a market level. You might think you're doing pretty well, but what else is happening out there and how are others performing? External benchmarking is not so easy to do. You really kind of need to be part of a benchmarking group or something like that. I'll put a link down below because I'm not trying to sell you benchmarking here, but we do provide benchmarking services, so that's one option. You may be able to find others. So the benchmarking and gap analysis is the first step. Then I think you've got to look at the opportunities. So where are the biggest opportunities to improve service and cost? You've got to obviously look at the risks, and risks are around things that are going to impact service or impact supply, and then go through a prioritization process. What I'll do actually next week is I'll share the prioritization process that we use with our consulting clients. And I shared a simplified version of that on LinkedIn recently, but I'll share that with you next week. And then finally, once you've gone through that process of understanding where the gaps are, what are our priorities, what are the benefits, you can then start to refocus, you can start to realign, because maybe your distribution channels have to change as a result of what we've gone through in the last few months. Then you've got to start realizing those benefits. And if you get that right, you're looking at business growth, you're looking at shoring up your business for the future, and to make sure that you come out of this issue, this coronavirus pandemic stronger than ever and in a really good position. So just coming back to the original question, what is your supply chain going to look like in 6 to 9 months' time? Where are you going to be at this end point? Are you going to be towards the best in class or doing well, or are you going to be barely coping, or are you going to be falling behind, or are you going to be one of the 10% that unfortunately doesn't survive? You need to influence that result by what you do now. And like I said, next week I'll share some of the things that maybe you should be focusing on. So I hope that helps. We're all dealing with a lot right now, but we've got to have an eye to the future and make sure that we're working towards that as well. Now, if you find these videos of use, you know what to do. You need to be hearing when the new videos are coming out. And the best way to do that is to hit the subscribe button. If you hit the bell next to it, that way you get notified every time a new video comes out. And when do they come out? Every Wednesday. So thanks for watching. I'd love to hear your comments, your feedback, your suggestions down in the comments below. And I'll talk to you next week, and we'll talk about that prioritization process. See you then.